Don't you think? Cloudy, so realtor. Oh, it's cloudy.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here. You got plans for Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Kinda? A little overwhelmed? Yeah. Well, I know whenever our moms are here, we introduce them. My mom's actually here today. She's back there hiding. I don't want to embarrass her. I don't want to embarrass myself. Mom.
Too many kids.
Yeah. She's a mother of 4 boys.
Is that her bodyguard standing by the door?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
She's earned her stripes.
She's earned her stripes. There's no question she's earned her stripes.
Does she know your nickname?
Yeah, you're right.
Which one?
The one your kids gave you?
Goober butt?
Yeah.
No. That's just
Hey, Ma.
my daughter calls me goober butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I shouldn't have probably said that publicly.
Yeah, good job.
So thank you for being here. We can make this a little bit more casual than normal. We can be short. This is a credit hour, so Kim, if you got your thing going around.
Thing right
Yeah,
there.
it's clearly going to be a lightly attended meeting, and that's fine. Just a reminder on here, the clipboard's up here, so be sure you sign up before you go. You get a credit hour for this. It's always kind of fun when I see Gil this time of year, because Gil was agent number 3 that joined us. I was 1. Rick Talbot, who's not here, is 2, and then there was Gil. Denise was here, of course, but Denise, the other owner, right, the other founder of the company. But in terms of licensees, he was number 3, so we have some longevity, right? Just a reminder on a couple things, if I could, while we're here. 160 registered right now, which is, yeah, good.
Is there a place to double check? I'm pretty sure I RSVP, but then I'm,
Well, if
some
you're in doubt,
holidays.
just do it again,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And I can delete it. I just
Okay.
go to my thing and I just delete the duplicates. Tom's registered like 5 times.
Three times.
And if you want to register, haven't, you just go into, I'll just show you again really quick, More HQ, the schedule, and just click on December 10th, or scroll down the list over down here and click on that, and there's all the deets.
Is it just ourselves, or are we bringing our other?
So we've got that question a couple times, and people like to bring family members and stuff. We're at 160 already, and we can seat about 240, and where do you draw the line? You can't bring your family, because they don't fit. So that's more uncomfortable of a notion than not having family members. But we've had people, like Denise has brought, her mom needed care, so she brought her. We understand things like that, just let us know, but we haven't made it public to friends and family at this time. It's changing. I mean, the company's changed a lot, as you know, and a lot of people. And now I will say this is potluck style. It's always been potluck style, and we haven't had very many people respond to the potluck part of it. So if you can or want to or plan on bringing something, please let us know so that we can know what we're planning on. If you're just going to bring it and don't tell us, that actually doesn't help at the moment, because then we're panicked. So if you plan on bringing something, just follow the same, right here, the same thing. Oops. There's a link to, you can just reply to this post or send me an email. Or if you want to buy raffle tickets up front, you just follow that link. Or if you want to register and haven't, go there. If you just want to donate some money to More Gives, you can go there and just donate some money. So there's the answer at the Christmas party. On December 5th is a Code of Ethics class. NAR sent out their little notification about the 3-year window changing and all that, and I talked to PMAR yesterday. That frustrated them a bit because NAR kind of did this mass email, and it's created nothing but a lot of questions. Yes, the course counts. It's certified. It's accepted, and it will apply to the next cycle. So if you want to take the one on December 5th, click here, and you can register for the NAR Code of Ethics class right here.
Also, I guess from what I found out, because Cammie researched it too, she said that the LARC class, that still Kevin Harper should be able to do the LARC class because it's very detailed as to the steps of what needs to be done, the ethics is a little.
Lark is a state, ethics is a federal, you know, it's a national, so you need both.
Okay, right, so.
Yeah, you need Lark and that one
Right,
as
so Lark
applicable.
one,
So.
yeah, they'll still be able to do it, but they need ethics.
You need ethics as well, so they don't override the other. So you,
Yep.
at some point, you'll need the ethics, you might as well take it because it'll count for a 3-year window.
Yeah.
Did I see a hand go up? No, I just see hands, and my eyes are all tuned into stuff. Okay, and then hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving this week. I can't believe it's already Thanksgiving again. Any checks received today by 2, 3 will probably get processed today, just so you're aware. If we receive them after that, they probably will not get processed till Monday. Just we have light staff tomorrow, probably going to effectively be closed and for the holiday. So, okay. All right. Any questions? Anything like that? Any of that? No. Yes.
Are those ethics class and the law classes, are they good for both for Oregon State and Washington State?
The Lark.
Yeah.
The Lark, I don't know. I don't think so because if Eric was in here, he's in the other room, he could answer that better than I could. But I don't think the Lark is a Washington credit class. But the ethics one should apply to any board you're a part of. Like if you're in CCAR up in Washington, are you in CCAR as well? Clark County Association of Realtors, you have to work, okay, you're, okay. That's a national ethics class, so it should apply to every board you're in. But the Lark is state only. Oregon State. Okay. All right. Kim, do you want to do your little intro? I'm not seeing any. Well, before you do, I don't see any guests or first timers here. Right? Ryan. Oh, Ryan, you're a guest. You're down the hall. You want to say hi, Ryan?
Hi guys. No CE class today, but Travis Smith will be in next week after everybody's burned off all the turkey and gravy and stuffing, and he's going to talk about USDA loans and how they can help get those people deals.
That'd be a good topic.
And I just want to say thank you for all of your support and the business that you've been sending me. We truly appreciate everything that you guys do to help work with us, and I love working with you guys. So thank you and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kim, for providing the C hours all the time. Okay, so we'll just talk about some of this and answer any questions anyone has. And like I said, I'm feeling more casual today than normal. So we're just going to start here on the contingencies. And like we've spent the last 4 weeks on the sales agreement, and we're on page 4. I'm amazed how many questions and scenarios and things, but frankly, in my opinion, that's the job of an office, is to facilitate learning, right? Facilitate information, and so if we take 12 weeks to go over the sales agreement and everybody's learning and improving, it's worth it, right? So, any questions on anything before I get started on this? No? Okay. So, talking contingencies. On page 4 of the sales agreement, it's titled contingencies. And one of them is title insurance. And from what I've read through that is basically it has to be insurable, right? And you have the right to review reports and documents of the record. Buyers shall have 5 business days to review things like the prelim. Trios are the superficial level. That's all a trio is. And it shouldn't really be relied on for much. Not really for square footage, not for lot size, it's very unreliable, and it's really a recording of the deed usually. But you can also look at that deed and make sure you got the right names on everything on a trio and verifies address. But I've actually literally found properties with trios with the wrong owner. They had never recorded the new owner.
I just went through one of those.
Yeah, trios don't always get updated. Does a prelim always get updated? A prelim is a much deeper dive, in essence, a deep dive into the title search, right? What encumbrances, who's a owner, who's all this, and then you'll get a report of that. Yeah,
Can I just interject on a couple of things?
Yep.
So, if your escrow officer that you've been using did not go over the prelim with you, tell you about the red flags, that are on there, that need to be addressed, and you should really, you know, once escrow's open, or if you have a property that maybe, you know, somebody's deceased, you think that there might be some liens on it, we don't like to open up escrow before you have your sales contract, but we can on different circumstances, so, but make sure that you are going over that, and make sure that your escrow officer is giving you, because they go through it and they see what might hold up the transaction, and, you know, ask you to then go ahead and get paperwork, whether it's, you know, a certificate of death or things like that. So, but if you do need it beforehand, you just let your sales executive know, like me, and we can then do open up a prelim with buyer to follow. So, but yeah, it's just really, really important that you don't wait to look at that.
What kind of circumstances would you want when before you go take a listing live on a prelim? Can you think of a couple? I mean, I can think of a couple really important ones that you might want to call escrow and get a prelim ahead of a listing.
Yeah.
The death? Mm-hmm. Yep. Estate? Can you, I mean, does the parties authorize to sign and clear it? Yep, that's a good one. Divorces and probate. Right? What does probate mean? The government gets to decide who gets to sell the house, basically. And if you're married, do you automatically avoid probate? You don't. You have to have a trust or something else in place that an instrument that facilitates that. And if you're just tenants in the entirety, is that the right one? I think it's more common.
Yeah.
Just because if I'm married and the spouse dies or I die, doesn't mean you can automatically move forward. It may have to go to probate, and that's what prelim might be able to help you with. Yeah.
I thought you could in Oregon because
Not necessarily.
my
It's not a
husband
hard.
passed away and we didn't really have anything.
It's not a hard and fast rule.
Oh, really?
There's variables that kind of go back to that might be why you want to pull a prelim.
Okay.
The other question I'd ask in the event of a death is, do you have a will or a trust established? No, we don't have anything like that, because that will be a variable that plays into whether escrow is willing to give clear title. They will do the research and say, we've had a death, they want to sell it, would you please pull a prelim and see if we're clear to sell this on our own if we got to go to probate? And escrow literally has their legal department that will go determine that. Right? And if they say, sure, go ahead, we'll give clear title, all right, go for it. But it's not always a guarantee. Now, if you have a will or a trust established and the survivor or someone else, an executor or a limit or a power of attorney, those kind of things, you provide that to escrow as part of that due diligence and let them look at the whole picture. That's really what you're doing. But it's not a guarantee that a husband and wife are married that can always sell without going into probate. So.
Oh, also, if you see that the property is in a trust, don't assume that they have a bank account that's in that same trust name, and we can't release any of the, the seller's, whatever, the money to them if they don't have a bank account. We can't wire it to them if they don't have a bank account in the same trust name. We can't give it to them in their own name. So make sure at the beginning, and if they don't, tell them just to make it easy to open up a bank account under the trust name.
Yeah, so
Don't assume.
So remember how we've talked about over time, more clear is spelled and is better than guessing? The last thing you want to do is get, okay, there's a surviving spouse, we'll list the house and sell it and then get into escrow and go, wait a minute, we can't give clear title because it's got to now go to probate. That's kind of waste people's time. It's best to find that out ahead of that. So a death is a really good one. Another one, if you kind of sniff it around the listing a bit and pick up on the fact that it might be short. Right? Okay, is this short? Well, how much do you owe? Well, I owe, it can list around 400,000. Well, I owe 350. Okay, that's your mortgage. Any other mortgages? Oh, yeah, you're right. I have a second. How much is that one? I don't know. Okay, can you find out? But anything else? Well, I don't know. Maybe tax. If someone's doing that kind of stuff or that close to the margin, I'm going to get a prelim to see what's recorded. What's that? I heard someone say something?
He answered his phone and walked out.
Oh, okay, that's something else. Because that will tell you, right? It'll tell you that it's worth 400, but geez, there's $490,000 recorded loans here.
Short.
Now, different circumstances, right? So that might be why to run a prelim ahead of time. Again, we talked about the spooks of how common are short sales. It's pretty rare right now.
Yeah.
Very rare. Because the values have kind of passed them, but it is possible or conceivable that somebody has not paid their taxes or has some other judgment against them that needs to be satisfied before they can close. Another one that came up recently, the agent's not here, is she was chugging down this path, and it was probably going to be a short sale. Who do we hire? I said, we'll try these people. And I said, well, have you run a prelim yet? And it said, no, and kind of did some more digging. And someone said something off the mark about, chapter 7. Just kind of really quickly under her breath. Well, what's chapter 7 flag? That was bankruptcy. Okay, hold on. Wait, what? Well, yeah, we just filed chapter 7. Like, okay, and I said, literally, withdraw it off the market. Because when you go into bankruptcy, depending on which one you're in, the court might drive all of that, right? You have to sort of get permission. And so I said, okay, do you have a prelim yet? No, not yet. Okay, get a prelim. You had to kind of find out some things and wait for permission from the attorney. And we said we will not list this until we get the attorney to sign off saying, yeah, go ahead, you're clear to sell. So and I can't remember which one's what, but there's one where the court is now in control of your assets, and one where they're just it's a payoff plan. I think 7's a payoff plan.
Yeah.
Yes, whatever one was just a payoff plan, so we were clear to go pay it, but it's short. So that was another scenario where we pulled a prelim because you want to, okay, I need to know what else is here, right? So and it kind of plays on both ends of it, buy side and sell side too. You kind of want to be aware of those flags or those circumstances, and because a prelim will tell you what's recorded. I have, just don't tell anyone this.
Okay.
But I ran a credit report for myself, and there's a credit card that I have with a balance on it. It doesn't show up on my report anywhere. Never has. I've had it for like 10 years. It's nowhere to be seen. What's that? Yeah, well, city. I got it through Costco. It was one I got like 10 years ago through Costco. And because I did it, they want to do it under a business name, well, they'd never report it to my name, right? So it's not there. So does that matter when it turns for my credit score? It doesn't. If I want to get a loan, it's invisible, right? But all the other stuff is not. So I'm relating this back to prelim. Right? Prelim, they might say something, but if it's not on the prelim and it's not recorded, it's invisible to the transaction. It's not really relevant. It's not a judgment. It's not recorded. So let's flip that around. I know we're getting a little far
A
here.
lot of times people will interchange wanting a trio versus a prelim, and they're completely different.
You were talking to her, but we said they're not the same at all.
Right,
Get a
sorry.
prelim.
Yeah, and as far as once you get a prelim, our title department has to take a look at it. It's really manual hours intensive. So normally, if you're just looking for a prelim, it's anywhere from $150 to $250. If, let's say, it doesn't close, a lot of times we'll hold the file open until you get your other buyer. But just so you know, I mean, so we don't just normally automatically open a prelim. But if you really think that there's something on there that you really need to see, other than that, sometimes customer service can look for liens for you. But it's not going to be everything. It's not going to be personally against the person. It might be tax liens and things.
Well, it doesn't have also the outstanding balance like on the first mortgage. It might say a $400,000 loan, but the balance has been paid down for the last 20 years, so it's really $200,000. So you have to, what's your payoff? What's this? So anyway, it's a little bit of a dance. But the point is prelim shouldn't be something you just get and load. Verify the name, verify the address, and take a quick look at the judgments and liens to see if there's anything goofy that you should be aware of. Now, as a buyer, when you're a buyer, they also want to know what your judgments and liens are. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Do you know why they want to know what a buyer's judgments and liens are? Why would that be relevant to purchase of a home?
So lender knows they're gonna be paid.
No, nothing of that. It's not about that at all. That's lender.
Oh.
Paying the loan, the strength of a buyer, that's lender stuff. Why do you think title should be aware if I have judgments and lien against myself and I don't own a home, or I do own a home? Can you guess? Because those judgments have to transfer to the new property. If I have a judgment on my old property, a judgment on me, there's a chance that judgment may have to be recorded on the new property. So they have to facilitate that. You don't just get to buy a house and, oh, my judgments are gone. Right? Divorce judgments or whatever that might be recorded or anything against the property, they have to be aware of that as a buyer to ensure they get re-recorded where they belong. Yeah.
How long does that stay with you?
The judgment?
Yeah.
Until
all
they're
that.
satisfied.
Okay, yeah.
And
So
have
if
to
you
pri-
had like excuse me for interrupting you, if you had like a bankruptcy that's over with, that then is now null and void.
Yeah, but if it's still recorded and that recording hasn't been removed, you just provide a letter or some of the documentation to somebody saying, well, it's satisfied, right? But when a prelim, when the people see the title sees prelim, they're gonna contact those debt holders on the prelim and say, we have a recorded judgment, how much do they owe you? Please provide us a proof that they owe you that. That's why on like the settlement statement, they'll say to pay off this, pay off that, or pay off this mortgage, that mortgage, because they've gone to the effort to find out what is on the title, what needs to be satisfied, and how much is it. You have your hand up?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how would if you're selling your house to be able to buy another house, you've got judgments on your own house.
As a buyer, you mean?
If you are selling your house and you have judgments on it, then doesn't that eat up all you're describing? a
No, you have
situation-
a contract too. You have a contract to get paid as well.
Right, but there's a hierarchy of who gets paid first.
Everybody has to be paid to get clear title.
Okay.
So yeah, so the first lien holder, it goes in order. And your real estate commission is not a lien.
Right.
It's a contract.
Right.
Right? Unless they've defaulted at some point in the past and you went and got a judgment against them and recorded on the house. By the way, don't ever record anything on a property unless you have an actual judgment that authorizes you to. It's actually illegal. You can't just say, well, they owe me on this credit card and then record it in their house. You can't do that. That's illegal. You have to make sure you get a judgment from the court that allows you to. So, back to your question, all those things have to be satisfied, and so that would become a short sale.
Okay.
All these, I can get 400, and I've got 390,000 in debt. Geez, plus I've got another 25,000 in realtor commissions. That's a short sale.
Okay.
So he.
If you're going to be part of it, otherwise you guys kind of get, to pay everybody, you gotta be paid with your credit card. How are you gonna pay me? There's no money in the sale of the house to pay everybody to do this.
Right.
So now it's just,
Negotiating with.
So who do they get? How do they get paid? Through the bank?
ooh.
Through the short sale?
So now you're shifting into a bit of a short sale conversation, but the way it would work on a short sale, let's say you're in that scenario,
Yeah.
it's worth 400 and you got 400, 390,000 in liens, plus you got some closing costs coming, plus you got realtor fees and all things like that. So now you're up at 425, call it. Okay, so there's a couple choices how you would approach that. Okay, how are you gonna pay us outside of escrow? Because there's no money coming from escrow. You have a contract, I brought you a buyer, I'm entitled to get paid, how are you gonna pay me? Well, I can't, okay, then we have to start looking at a short sale. Or negotiate your fee down to nothing. That doesn't sound like fun, right? So when you find yourself in that, you just need to call and you talk through a scenario because there's several ways to approach that.
Right.
When the short sales were running rapid, I think we all made some sort of deal to get a deal done. I mean, I don't know who didn't make some sort of a deal. So, you're like, okay, I'll give the 1,000 so we can close it or whatever. Because we were desperate to close a deal.
So the remainder of whatever judgment's left over can go into the new house if these people.
No, okay, so here's two different conversations. That's the seller being satisfied. If I'm a buyer,
If you're the seller that is the buyer, that's what
okay,
you're saying.
so if I'm a seller who is buying, all those judgments will get satisfied at closing, and I move on and buy, and there may not be anything that transfers to new property. Don't confuse what I'm saying. The only reason they need to be aware of me as a buyer, like going through a process right now. They said, what judgments you got? Nothing. I don't have any judgments, and because they have to, if there are judgments on me that should be recorded, part of their job is to make sure they get recorded.
Just
not
to feel
the
out
problem.
what that scenario would look like. There's like
Yes,
excessive
that
taxes
scenario
or
is
whatever
so
it is.
obscure and whatever that
Right.
I'm not sure it's worth
Okay.
agonizing over right now.
Sure.
Because if I'm a seller who's a buyer and all my judgments are satisfied, I just move on and buy.
Right.
But if any part of that can't get satisfied, they're gonna follow me, then I'll just get re-recorded on your property. It has nothing to do with the math of who gets paid how much necessarily.
Right.
Can I satisfy all the judgments against us to give clear title? That's what they're there for. Well, based upon the math, we can't give clear title. What do you wanna do? Sale fell? You have just other decisions to make at that point.
So I guess a really good example would be like an IRS, right? Like you haven't been paying your taxes for a long time, and you have a judgment
That's one.
lien against the house, and then obviously if you can't pay it off, the equity doesn't pay it, then they would transfer it over to the new house.
No, because it's gotta be paid, because that is a lien against the house.
Okay, that's different. than judgment.
Your collateral that you now have, because you defaulted, is your house.
Okay.
And unless that's paid in full, or I agree to take less, which is a short sale, you can't move on. You can't transfer a balance to new property. That's not what happens.
Because each deal stands on its own.
It all
right?
stands on its own.
Okay. So what is a judgment that would transfer over?
In that scenario, I don't know, if there's an ongoing divorce decree of monthly payments, because sometimes it is recorded, or if you're in arrears on whatever. But all that might need to be satisfied. I'm not sure of one who would transfer it. So really, the scenario I talked about, and let's don't
Yeah.
get too far in the weeds on that,
Yeah.
is I'm a buyer and I don't own a house. They wanna know what judges I have in case there's something that should be recorded that's not.
I see, okay.
So don't,
I see.
yeah, that's
Okay.
basically mainly what it's for.
Yeah, okay.
If I own a house and I have judgments, are they getting satisfied or not? If they're getting satisfied in full, move on.
Right.
If they're not, it's a different thing. Either I can't sell, or I gotta figure out how to satisfy them, or get people to agree to take less. That's a short sale. To help?
Yes.
So again, here we are at 40 minutes, and we've gone through one paragraph. So and I know we touched on some of this last week, but as you can see, there's always stuff to learn, and hopefully this is valuable to you. It does talk about inspections, environmental health conditions, and it does say the following list identifies some, but not all, environmental conditions that may be found in and around real property that may affect health. I'm gonna start saying them. Asbestos, carbon dioxide, electric and magnetic fields near power lines, formaldehyde, lead, and other contaminants in drinking water and well water, blah, 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 blah. Buyers encouraged to secure the services of a licensed professional inspector, consultant, and team, and realtors are not experts in any of this. And nor should you act like you are, right?
Right.
You can guide them and direct them and advise them on levels, but you should not paint the picture that you're any kind of an expert at any of this. Any questions on that? I'm gonna move on. Licensed professional inspections, I get questions, every meeting we talk about this, there's always someone that says, oh, I didn't know that. Or, I forgot about that. So I just wanna touch on it again. If I check this box, does that give me the right to have a radon and sewer scope? No, right?
Right.
It does not.
No.
Unless what? And mold is considered as intrusive, or removing part of the house. I'm taking some gas out of the house. Sounds sexy, right? Classified as invasive inspections, you need to say them. What are some ways you can say that and cover your bases on that? There's a couple ways to cover those invasive inspections. What can you do?
Any other inspection?
Say it again.
Any other inspection buyer deems necessary.
That's one way, it's a catch-all. Any other inspections buyers deem necessary, say, radon and sewer, list it out. I want radon, sewer, septic, whatever.
Right.
But if it's septic, you have a different addendum. We'll get back to that here in a minute. So you want to spell out, what's another way you can catch all those items?
Place.
Line 192, and then.
192, very good, thank you.
Inspection.
Alternative inspection procedures, and then you have a list of like 20 variable. If you feel like you want more than just a professional inspection, and you want other, so professional inspection really is defined as a house inspection. It's a superficial inspection, visual only, basically. They can't do anything invasive, they can't remove material, or move material. They can't even want to have anything more than a superficial, and get into those other details, you need to request it on here and order it. It's a dry rot, you just need to know if it's rotten.
All right.
Yeah, that's a little bit different. You're not removing anything and moving anything. They're basically just kind of doing a probe
Right.
that says this is soft wood, which is a problem. Right? Questions on that? Okay, how long do you have to have these negotiations regarding repairs as related to licensed professional inspection resolved?
Business days, if it's not filled in.
Whatever the inspection period is, and it's 10 days if you leave it blank. Is it 10 calendar days or business days?
Business.
Business days. Okay, is Christmas Eve a business day?
Yes. No.
Is Christmas Day?
No.
No. It's federal holidays, right? Is New Year's Eve a business day?
Yes.
It is. Is New Year's Day?
No.
It's not. Is Saturday a business day?
Yes.
Saturday's never a business day.
No.
Or Sunday.
Or Sunday, right? And if you ever want to know, it's easy to find out. List of federal holidays. You Google it.
I got mixed
They
up.
really are. There's a list of federal holidays. So all you simply do is, okay, I've got 10 days, grab my calendar, and I'm gonna go to December because we have, okay, we can use this week, is Thursday a holiday?
Yes.
It's Friday.
No.
No, it's not. So if I went into contract today and I have 10 business days for mutual acceptance, let's say the contract was accepted today and it's 7 business days, according to how that's written, when does it expire?
The 11th.
If it's 10 days, you gotta go up to,
It's
move the calendar up.
11.
okay. Am I out far enough on my calendar?
No.
28th, right here.
Friday next week. By the end of Friday
7
next
business
week.
days.
Mhm.
I would put 7 instead of 10.
Okay.
Okay. So when does it expire?
Friday, the
The
6th.
6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Where's day 1 if I go into contract today? Is today day 1?
No.
Tomorrow's day 1.
Mhm.
Okay? The next business day following mutual acceptance is day 1.
Right.
That's the way it's defined as. And so we'll go back and show it to you. So it's always funny to watch people do this because how many times we do it, we still have to kind of. But yeah, so if it's 7 days and we're in a contract today, it's 1, 2,
No.
ah, 2,
Yes.
3,
No.
3,
Mhm.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you don't have repairs negotiated by then, what has happened? She raised her hand. I'll call on her because she raised her hand.
Yeah, well, does it depend on what time of day the contract begins?
It's 5 p.m. day to the last day.
I mean, to begin, let's say you write the contract.
It's the next
on
business day.
11th.
Next business day.
Never that day.
And I'll show you here. What if I go into contract on the 29th? What's day 1? This is day 1. So you can really work this. Because if I go into contract on the 18th and ask for 15 business days, I got more than 2 weeks. Because I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Almost 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So you can just be aware of that, right? And so when you receive offers, you need to count them too, right? Well, no, we don't want 15. You know, we don't want to go that far. You need to backdate it or maybe count it. So back to your question right here. 10 business days after the date buyer and seller have signed acceptance agreement. So day 1, hereafter period, which will complete all inspections and negotiations with seller regarding any matters disclosed, and etc. Buyer shall not provide all or any portion of the inspection reports to seller unless requested by seller. So who's the seller? Who's the seller's agent? Who represents the seller? The agent, right? So if I have an agent that requests it and I give it to them and their clients haven't asked for it, whose problem is that? His agent, his problem, right? But can you provide a copy of it if they don't request it?
No.
No. Do you have to provide it if they do? Yes. It's that simple. And I get people kind of trying to negotiate back and forth. Well, what about this? No. Well, they paid for it. It doesn't matter. Under contract, right? Don't provide.
Were called out and not the whole inspection?
No. You can send them no portion of the inspection report unless they ask for it. However, on my inspection reports, I'll say, please update electrical panel as noted in inspection report, page 3, and not provide it. Guess what they're going to do? Ask me to page 3 of the inspection report. Sure.
But I've seen realtors send it to me on the items that were called out.
No, they're not supposed to.
Okay.
We were told to do that many years ago.
It was different years ago.
Yeah.
I used to do it different years ago. I provide the repair addendum, however we were using what paperwork, and I put a whole copy of the inspection report and send it. Because I wanted to see what I was not asking for.
Yeah.
You see how bad this could be?
Yes.
That's what I was trying
Right.
to do. But you can't do that anymore. Now, you as an agent, if you're aware of material defects in the home, do you have a duty to disclose?
Yes.
You do. If you're a listing agent and you get a copy of the report without them asking for it, you're now in a position you have to disclose what you know too. There's no formal way to do that, but the agency is very clear that your client has to disclose, but the agent has some responsibility to disclose too. You can't hide. If I know that this has got a failed septic system or whatever, and I don't pass that information on to a new buyer, and I know that, that could fall back on me. That's called an omission. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Error and omission? Okay, I see several hands here. Stella will, and then we'll.
I've had agents send me, or even put in the listing, don't send me the report, I'm not gonna open it. Is that
Yeah, you don't have to
something-
put that in the listing. You just don't have to open it. You can reply back and say, thank you, I did not open this. And put it in the SkySlope file. Don't attach it. Just say, we haven't asked for a inspection report, I did not open this. For the record, I have not opened this. And then save that response to your SkySlope file.
Okay.
It's not that simple. I don't think you have to over-rotate and go in the listing and put signs out in the yard and whatever. Yeah.
How much can you just email to, I mean, say for example, I'm not gonna send the inspection report, but lots of stuff have pulled up and you want them to understand that you're
Mhm.
only asking for a couple things. Am I gonna be in some sort of slippery slope if I just say, and you know, the electrical panel and this and that and the other thing were all bad?
I think you can say stuff like, I mean, I can totally see an email and say, hey, look, we're only asking for these items. There's a whole lot we could have asked for.
Yeah. Can I be specific or no?
I don't think you're inappropriate by being specific, and because it's not saying you can't communicate information.
Okay.
You can't have a copy of the report. Now, if I'm a decent seller, you should, in my opinion, you want a report, right? Because I want to provide a product and minimize my risk. I don't want to look like I'm hiding anything, but it's genuine to me, right? That's my opinion. You had your hand up.
Oh, it was the same thing. My clients wanted the seller's agent to see the report, and I wouldn't send it.
You can't. The country just point them to the section. They can't send it to them.
They sent it.
Oh, to the listing agent?
Uh-huh.
To the listing agent on the other end said, thank you, I have not requested it, I have not opened it.
Yeah,
That's what I would have
and they
done.
weren't the
Please stop
ones that-
communicating with me directly.
Yeah,
That's what they should have said.
yeah. But she was representing the bank.
Okay, so can I just make a parenthetical statement here? When you're dealing with a bank or a foreclosure, all bets are off.
Okay.
I mean, it just changes things, and they have their own rules. They could give a rat's rump about the state laws and stuff, and they don't care. They just like, we want this, we don't want that. And you kind of have to play their game, right? They're not gonna cave to our will, right? So that's just kind of the comment there. Do what you can.
These were investors that knew more than I.
Yeah. Yeah, they always know more than you. You're just a realtor, but you know. Okay. So, other questions on that? Okay, I can't tell you how many times, and I know I've said this almost every meeting, I get a call the day of inspection period. Hey, our inspection period ends at 3. They haven't responded back yet. You're like 3 days overdue in having that conversation.
Yeah.
Because at 5 p.m., what happens?
Time's up.
If buyer fails to provide seller with written unconditional disapproval of any inspection reports by 5 p.m. the final day of the inspection period, buyer shall be deemed to have accepted the condition of property. That's the only consequence. They've been deemed to accept the condition of the property. So yeah, let's assume that happened. Oh, whoops, I didn't get to that, or something else came up later. Can you still negotiate and ask for stuff as a transaction goes? Risk for a buyer. But as a seller's agent, you want to make it as high as possible, right? So are you pouring or you're drinking, right? And so it's kind of your perspective. So what you can do is any point in the transaction, you say, look, we want the seller to repair the roof. We already told you no. Yeah, but if we're going to move forward, we want you to do the roof. Well, you're outside the inspection period. I know, I'm asking outside of that. If that doesn't work out, we're just going to terminate. You can do that. What's the maximum risk?
Your
Deposit.
yeah.
I'm just gonna
That's it.
tell my lender and they're gonna want.
Yeah,
to-
or, hey, the lender said the roof is going to become a problem.
Yeah.
You can do that too, but you can also do that under your appraisal. The appraisal comes back, calls it out. That's now a financing failure unless you can sort that out. If the appraiser calls out the roof, you're back to negotiating the roof. Repair it before closing at your expense, or reduce the price. You're back to the contingency time frame that I'm now stuck and I can't keep negotiating. But does a seller ever have to say yes? No. Can you always ask for what you want?
Yep.
Sure, they can say no. Yeah,
So, I had this happen, I had a buyer who had enough money that they didn't get an appraisal. And so the question is, cause they didn't wanna pay for it, they had so much money they didn't wanna pay for it.
I don't have, in a $1 million house, I don't even appraise, it's too expensive.
But
Inspection, you kidding me?
would you recommend that they have an appraisal just for this kind of situation?
Well, it depends. I mean, some people don't care.
Yeah.
I wanna buy the house.
Explain it.
And there's a lot of, it's not so common these days, but in the past, people would say, yeah, this house is, I'm gonna write off for 600, or 650, there's almost a real world example. I'm willing to pay up to $40,000, up to 650 if it won't appraise that high. House is listed at 600. I'm writing at 650. Well, it's not gonna appraise that, I'll pay the difference. Okay?
Right.
They're just taking a calculated risk.
That-
And with them, it's the same kind of thing here. If they're a cash deal, don't want an appraisal, I don't care. And that's just on them, I mean, right? It's probably not relevant. I just want the house. Believe it or not, there's people out there that money is not an object, right? There's a lot of them out there. And but you can always say, look, I just want to make sure you know if this doesn't appraise. But if we're not getting the loan, it's not even really relevant to that. But a lot of cash won't get appraisals. And again, here we haven't made it page whatever here. So, prior to expiration of inspection period, written agreement is reached with seller regarding buyer's request for repairs. The inspection period will automatically terminate. So what form do you use to negotiate repairs? If you're a buyer, what do you send them? Buyer's repair addendum. Should you ever send a standard addendum on its own?
No.
Absolutely not. And you know why?
Because of the verbiage in the buyer's agreement.
The verbiage, yes. Let's see if I've got this in my thing here. It might not be in this one, this folder.
Well, it's not just the verbiage, it's the process too.
Well, process, but the verbiage protects all parties. So do I have a buyer? No, I don't have a repair addendum. I have to go to zip forms. I could go there. Give me a second. But yes, so the days of using a plain addendum for your repairs disappeared like 5 years ago. And if you're kind of in that place or haven't been aware of that, you need to be aware there's a specific form for sellers or buyers repairs. And there is very specific verbiage in there, but I want to point a couple things out related to that. Let's see if this will work. By the way, when I'm logging into zip forms, they still don't have a plan of what they're going to do with forms. They don't. And so, ORF, meaning ORF. I think for right now the status quo is going to remain intact, but at some point they could say we've canceled zip forms, you got to go here or whatever. It's just going to be something we have to work around as time passes. Here's my glasses. 10:52, are you kidding me? Okay. So go into my class here. Cancel that out in one place. Hello. Party wants them to find a new solution, honestly. Isn't Zip Forms owned by Lone Wolf, who's now owned by somebody?
Yeah, they have a transaction desk, which is another alternative thing, so they bought their competitors.
Yeah, they keep buying up the competition. Buyer, seller, where is it? Buyer's repair addendum, I got it up here somewhere. Tell me if you see it while I'm looking. Do you see it?
Moving too fast.
Buyer's repair addendum. Just so there's a PDF. Let's pull that really quick. This is the buyer's repair addendum, and there's important verbiage on here. Buyer's previous addendum to seller should not constitute a counteroffer. Not a counter. Can the seller reject this and terminate the transaction? No, it's just not a counter. It's just a proposal, right? Or refusal of buyer to honor the terms of the existing sales agreement. Same with the seller. Buyer should promptly deliver this repair addendum to seller, since there's no deadline for seller's acceptance. That's really important. If you get up near the 5 o'clock, who's the pressure on?
The buyer.
Buyer entirely. right? No pressure on the seller. You're asking for stuff. I'm not gonna ignore you. Who's the pressure on? The seller? Not at all. It's a buyer.
Yep.
Extend it or ask for something, or what can we do to sort it out, and we'll make a decision based upon that. There's no seller requirement to accept anything. Okay, so buyer requests the seller perform the following repairs and take corrective action, described as follows. They might request a copy of any inspections upon the following items are based. The completion date of buyer's corrective action is beyond scheduled closing date. Party should identify either a new closing date as part of the addendum. Buyer shall not provide all or any portion of special portion seller unless requested by seller. It's right here. You can't provide it unless they request it. Any portion of their warning. And then it has a warning right here, and it has completion dates. How many times do you see people say all other terms, conditions remain the same? You don't need that on here. How many times you said corrective on a standard addendum, a corrective action be completed by this date? You don't need it. It's all on here, right? So just use the form. The other thing down here, if seller checks this box, meaning he agrees, the inspection period shall automatically terminate. It's over. It's closed. You don't need to worry about that. It's all covered in the verbiage is there for you. Can you possibly replicate this protection just trying to rewrite your own addendum? Maybe, but why would you? Cut and paste. Doesn't make sense. What if you have items that are bigger than that would fit in here? What do you do? For additional details, see addendum, whatever, and I always just call them RUP or something. I call them something like that. It's related, and you attach. Then you use a standard addendum. And all you're doing is listing other items. Now all you've done is expanded these lines by doing that. That's all you've done. Okay, so what happens if they don't accept that? What are their options?
Buyers have a choice.
What's the seller's options here? They can counter, yes. What else can they do?
Reject.
They can reject. There's one, they can just ignore you.
Or do this.
Right? They can just say, not even gonna respond. Is there any requirement to respond? There isn't. So don't get panicked if you're not. And so when you find yourself 3 hours before that deadline, you waited way too long to be concerned about that. Right? You should be getting your repairs done quickly and getting this repair done to them as soon as you can. What if you need more time? What do?
Extend.
Extend the inspection period. Does the seller have to agree to extend it?
No.
They don't. I'm like I've told some of you, I'm presently have an offer on a house right now. My inspection period was over 2 months. Because the home was that bad and I had to do a septic investigation. It turns out the septic's failing. Right? So I've gone back with $100,000 off with everything. So we gotta work on some of our technology here. But I, on my own, extended the inspection period. I knew there's no way I was gonna get to it. So early on, it's an extension. Hey, I need a month and a half more. Okay, why a month and a half? Well, you got Thanksgiving. I got to work around the county. I got to work on this. I need time, and so it was literally 2 months long. But they accepted it, and guess what? I would have done if you had rejected that. Terminated, my money back, right? But I did that well ahead of the expiration because I knew I was going to need it. I didn't do it at 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. So. Let's see, download file now. So the seller can do any of those things. Now, seller's repair addendum, they could counter back. So let's say you have items 1 through 8 on your repair addendum, on your buyer's repair addendum, and they reject it and come back and just rewrite items 1 through 3. Do the other items transfer over as unchanged? They don't in repairs. Counter offers, they do. There's very specific verbiage in counter offers as you're negotiating your deal that says, unless is otherwise modified as follows. All prior counter offers and sales agreement remains intact, unless is modified as follows. And so what you modify below is the only thing that changes. Everything else you wrote on the counter offer 1 remains intact unless it's modified. So if they wrote 8 items, I modify 2, the other 6 remain. So be careful. That's on a counter offer, but repairs are handled differently. It's a brand new counter. So don't assume things transfer over and kind of carry over. They don't. It used to be different. The verbiage was different. I think a year ago it was different where it did, but it doesn't anymore. Okay? Very important. And then the same thing, you know, all this is the same down here. So buyer may, with buyer's inspector, within 2 if left blank, following your sheet with such notice, meaning completion of repairs, re-inspect the property to confirm the repairs and corrective actions have been completed. I get so sick and tired of these people saying, you can't re-inspect, you didn't ask for it. Well, there. Yes, we did. And a lot of people, you can't re-inspect, you didn't ask for it. Well, why wouldn't you let me? What are you hiding? Your garbage? What are you hiding? And so you do have the right to have a re-inspect, but it has to occur within a window unless it's left blank. So if any of those terms or conditions about that window bother you, or you need to just address them. Okay? I always like to have an inspection prior to, or at least have the open for a walkthrough prior to closing. At any point prior to closing, because how many times have I had buyers show up with the key and there's junk everywhere? They didn't take their junk. Toilets aren't flushed, or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
And I've had to go clean out a lot of houses over the years. I don't do it anymore. I just will call it whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But I've had to run to McMinnville one time, I remember, and spent the whole day removing the junk of my client that left behind. I felt like it reflected on me. So oh my gosh, well, so Berta McKay was her name. The buyer's agent and I showed up there and we cleaned out the house. I took like 2 dumps of broken down boxes to the recycling. It was really upset at my client. Anyway, so it's not bad to have a final walkthrough prior to closing, or at least ask for one, so yeah.
With the verbiage as is written, does it require the buyer's inspector to?
Right there it says, with buyer's inspector.
With buyer's inspector.
Yep. That's why you'll see inspectors come back into it. Now, if I have a receipt from a contractor, repair's been done, here's my license number or whatever, and the buyer's inspector comes back and says, well, I don't like how you did it. Who's overrides whose? The contractor or the inspector? The contractor.
Right.
They're the ones that the inspector should defer to.
Right.
He could call it and say, it's a little goofy, you might want to have this checked again. You can just kind of go back through that process. But inspect contractor, you don't have that looked by a contractor. I literally had an inspector out to a house closed a few weeks ago. House is 2 years old, and the inspector called out the new roof to be replaced.
Wow.
Okay? They actually had 2 roofers go out. One roofer, and I said, yeah, you gotta replace the roof. You gotta be kidding me. Had someone else come out and go, no, $150, I'll just kind of replace that shingle, and caulk it, and we're good. Which one we go with? $150 versus 20 grand. Excuse me. So, and that was all because an inspector, in his assessment, said it needed to be replaced. And then the buyers were freaked out. Our inspector said, well, your inspector is, sorry, nobody. They're a visual inspector, that's all they are. They're not a roofer. They're experienced, right? But we lean to get the contractors out there to take a look, and sometimes you get 3 or 4 of them. You know, we're over our hour. I don't know if you can believe that or not. Times just go fast, but it's so riveting, right? I can keep going a little bit, or if people need to go, understand, what do you want to do? We made it through
Over at the bottom of
the page. Yeah. And inspections, we can keep going on inspections. I mean, there's you know, there's lead-based paint. Next week we'll go over this stuff too, but. Yes, Stella.
I have a quick question. What if you're the listing agent and you get a repair request on a regular addendum? You make them do it again.
Thank you for bringing that up, Stella, very much. You're right. If you're a listing agent and get on a regular addendum, say we will not accept that, you should put on, use the correct form, please. Mm-hmm. That's what you should do. Please put this on a buyer repair addendum. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because guess what's missing? All those other little nuances and re-inspects and whatever, right? Missing. So you have every right to, what happens if you get disclosures that are incomplete? And we can't accept these. Please complete them and resend them.
I think you should quit because your mom's here.
Oh, whatever. I saw one hand go up.
I just have a question about the walkthrough. Where would you write that? If you're the buyer's agent?
You can put it anywhere in the offer or the repair addendum. You can put the original offer. You can put it under additional provisions. Buyer reserves right to a final walkthrough prior to closing. You can make it part of your standard clauses. But most people think, well, of course you get a walkthrough. But there are some who, no, I don't want it, and you're like, you didn't ask for it, you don't get it. Like, immediately, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
What'd you do? Right? Anyone, there's a old Richard Pryor movie where he's transferring out to Boise, Idaho, and he flew out there to look at the house. Anyone know what movie I'm talking about? I don't remember the name of the movie.
Yes.
You know, and he shows up and the kids are kidding on, yeah, you know, this wall's not included. Ha 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 ha! They're kidding about all this stuff that's not included in the house. So they drive the whole adventure, and Dana Carvey drove their Ferrari or Porsche out and totaled the car and all this stuff. And they get there to Boise and the house looks normal. Walk in and the wall's gone. All this stuff that was kidding about is gone, right? Because it was kind of a funny thing. It's like, you know, there's literally no back wall to the house. The barbecue pit's gone, pool's gone. And, you know, just they dug up the pool and took it with them. Anyway, so you just want to. My point is, why wouldn't you allow me to do the final walkthrough? What's wrong? But if you want to be sure you have it, just be clear. Anything else? Yeah.
What if you have a grease tube repaired and there's like 4 items on it, and 3 out of the 4 items get completed, and that one item you don't necessarily have the receipts. Say the listing agent's like, oh, I'm just waiting on the receipt, just waiting on the proof from the plumber, just kind of pushing you off. What would you suggest?
Well, you have a couple choices as a buyer. You can hold up closing.
Yeah.
You can quietly ask for an extension of close date, but it gets a little dicey, I guess, because if you just hold up closing in your last day and you haven't got that, and you're terminated, you're expired. It could be an argument that, well, we didn't close because you're not done. You have to extend. Well, I'm not going to extend now, but escrow won't close without the extension. So it creates this kind of uncomfortable place that you kind of have to say, look, I need this today, or we have to do something else. I need it now. Did the work get done? Okay, can we come see it? Can I send my guy over or gal over right now and take a look? Or you have to do something else. Because I always get, the most leverage you have is not to close. But you can't force them to sign an extension, and without that extension, escrow won't close. So you're kind of in a little bit precarious.
What if you close?
You discover it's not done,
Yeah.
small claims. Can't help. You go to, or large claims, depending on what it is, yeah. Normal claims or small claims, and that's kind of, so an option with your seller, or excuse me, your buyer is, okay, we have to make a decision here. They're not getting it to me. They're not even letting us look at it again. What would you like to do? What are my choices? Well, you could terminate, you could not close, but if we don't close, I can't guarantee you they'll sign an extension that we need to be able to close, even though they're supposed to. Then it becomes a fight. So now we have to just make a decision. And if you get in there though, and the furnace isn't working all of a sudden, they're not going to come back and replace your furnace today. It's cold. You're going to have to do that and go after them later after the fact. Or call the home warranty, get a home warranty or something like that. Yeah. It's really it's a little bit, I don't like that. But then you get a seller who's not, but we all have clients who don't cooperate sometimes, other parties. If you run into it, call. We'll talk. Anything else? Happy Thanksgiving! See you next week.
What are you gonna make? What are you doing I'm going down the
Yes, brainstorming next week. Brainstorming the whole works. I'm not gonna have whistle. We could have that. No, I mean the whistle. Yeah, Fireball.
Both sides, I told her not to. Stops it. Attorney got it. He wrote it down. You're not on that list. You're gonna have to cooperate.
Right, like that.
But I was also curious to find out, when do you do a new construction versus just like an earnest money? When the house is being built, it's new construction. And now now it's done, they got the occupancy permit, but now hasn't sold yet. So next day or next week or next month when you get an offer, is it a new construction, earnest money agreement, or is it a regular house for sale? Yeah, and then some of these people, they buy this little home, and they bought it, during framing, and then picked out all their colors and everything, and they've got that sucker tied in so tight on that move-in date that, man, they want to move stuff in the garage before the house even closed. The builder said, no, nothing goes in there. But the thing is, they get that inspection report Friday morning. Those guys want to close Friday at noon and get it recorded by, and move in that weekend. Well, how about the inspection? Because, when the house is being built and now the builder says, okay, it's done. We got an occupancy permit, it's done. So you've got that 10-day inspection there to get your inspection. But you want to move in tomorrow, how are you going to get an inspection and remove that continuance? So you have to have it done prior to the house being built and finished. That's not going to happen.
So that was that deal. What's the final?
You just say acceptance of it.
Sometimes they just want the product, just like our friend Mike Erickson. He bought the house next door. He doesn't give a fuck about what's going on. He's tearing it down. All he's doing is tearing that thing down in a couple of years and growing grapes. He just didn't want any neighbors. If he wanted to build a parking lot, it's like, hey, I don't care. I'm gonna put gravel in there and have my guests park. I have a park. Yeah, he I always put it down on my calendar because I know when he's going to do it, because he does it on the night. Both of the Christmas fleets of boat lighting, they get together. They do it a lot throughout the season, but there's only one night that both of them get together and they can clear out to Lake Hustley, because they might go tool around here, go north or south a little bit, and then they'll go on the Columbia River a couple times, but only one time where they go way out to Lake Hustley, and that's the night when he has his party, and so his party, so his party that night is December 21st. It's Saturday night, December 21st. So he's invited so many people that really nobody who's invited or not, because he's invited 300, 400, 500 people. And Steve's on every year, and so, but if you put that down on there for 5 o'clock on the 31st of December.
Based on the exceptions and exceptions to the exception pricing.
This gal that I sounds like they're going to squat, so this is her. That's her. That picture she sent me on, I didn't know. No, she phoned up. So these are the girls. That's her right there. She's like 62 or something. That's a picture she sent me. then I forwarded it up to you, I thought, well, wait a minute, what's going on there? That's not all that bad. You know, because we've had some good conversations.
We were having lunch the other day, Steve,
Right.
And I went in
Mark,
Yeah, are they talking again?
they're finally talking, yeah. Finally agree together, you know, like it's like family hug kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then also, Jordan there was.
Okay.
And so we were all talking about, we were talking about, so Steve was showing the picture that he was sending.
You guys are going down to Saturday the 28th of March, right? And we're staying until Saturday.
We're going Saturday, Saturday.
And then, so are you gonna do the party on Wednesday like you did last year? Or
You know, I have no idea, but I would be disappointed if we didn't.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was great, yeah.
Because you guys got down there Saturday, so you got a chance to recruit and
Exactly.
and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you played golf and went by the pool and this and that. But yet Thursday and Friday, your last 2 nights there, then you leave Saturday, so you know you want to have a party where you have a couple days to play if you see it, or if you don't, then you can go back to the next Thursday and Friday. If you're good. So Wednesday makes sense.
Yeah, Wednesday makes sense.
Plus it's April Fool's. April Fool's party. That sounds good.
Yeah.
We can do it. That gives you 3 or 4 days running hard.
Yeah, it does, it does. Yeah, so we'll have a good time.
Yeah. Any important news coming down this year?
I hope. That was this last part of it. You know, first of all, I was.
Oh, no. Their husband's not there.
Five brothers, and like, girl power is high.
Right. You have to just have that magical power.
It moved on.
Oh, and Kelly had lots for Steve.
Yeah, exactly.
And Steve's like,
Yeah.
I can do that.
Well, he said that the other day. He said,
What's that mean? Let me tell you that.
one of those guys.
Rules are changing in this house. I'm out
Nice.
now, and you guys are gonna listen to what I say. So when Matt is the person giving everything, I grabbed him and pinched him to the ground very gently. But I said, I'm the one who's going to do it. And they stared at me. So okay, everyone really followed me.
Yeah, that's what I like. Especially down below. Yeah, just know. Oh, that's really big. Yeah, well, because if you go to places
Oh, my
like
dog
that,
wouldn't stop puppying everything. I fed him when
Oh, that's right.
I was
I'll
just go grab an ice pack and shove.
Yeah.
Sauce. I'll be ready when
Those
I
rooms down there are.
Yeah, are you sure to test this?
You know, not everybody liked that. Not everybody likes
You know, I was
that. I mean,
thinking-
we like that.
Well,
But not everybody.
let me just say this.
And I'll go there. And then I'm
He
thinking,
goes more than that.
Oh,
Just because that's what
I love
this
it.
summer's great.
I can go 3 times. I can.
I'm always cold. I am always freezing cold. And, you know, I ride horses and it's like, my winter time is terrible.
about that. She goes,
But that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I got one. All over. I mean, it depends.
It's a fall place or a fall.
Thanksgiving, I might go. Well, I'm going to my mom. So if he goes everywhere with me, I have to attend. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And so
I
I'm
mean,
going to my
we've been
mom's
going,
for Thanksgiving.
we've been
So she's got an
going.
So I'll go up to Chelsea and watch.
Load him up and take off. Like your fish cat, yeah.
But if I have to go somewhere for all day,
How old do you think that dog is?
because after my mom, yeah, so I just, no, I just got it.
She got some
And
big
so I was
on
like,
her lips.
no, I can't do this alone. Nobody's gonna.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So that's what I want to do.
I had my horse in Chelsea, was
Cool. Yes,
Oh, Oh, it was very
Anyway,
difficult. I
she
couldn't,
was
I
teaching
couldn't
so
wait.
long.
No, I just.
I'm going, a lot, or like, how much is a lot?
I can't be here. No.
It's funny because we put our dogs down in the bed.
No.